I woke up to a hard knock at my front door. The clock on my nightstand read 1 o'clock a.m. I sat up immediately. No one knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I put on my robe, walked down the hallway, and turned on the small light by the entry table. The second knock was louder than the first. I checked through the peephole. Marion Holt stood on my porch, shoulders stiff, breath visible in the cold. I opened the door a few inches. The wind pushed snow into the gap. She said, "Don't go out this morning. Just trust me." Her voice was tight, controlled. I kept mine steady. "Marion, what's happening?" She didn't blink. "Lock every door. Stay inside. Do it now." She looked over her shoulder as if someone else might be watching. Then she added, "You'll understand by noon." Before I could ask a single question, she turned, crossed my porch, and disappeared into the snow without looking back. Her steps were fast and certain, not confused or panicked. She knew exactly why she was here. I closed the door and locked the deadbolt. Then I locked the chain. I checked the handle twice. My house was silent except for the faint hum of the heater switching on. I went to the window beside the door and watched her reach the edge of my yard. She never stopped walking. I checked the porch camera on my phone. The timestamp showed 1:03 a.m. I replayed the clip and watched her body language again. Shoulders tense, eyes scanning the street. Not random fear, calculated warning. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my notebook. I wrote, 1 o'clock a.m., Marion warning. Then, stay inside, noon. I underlined noon. I added, reason unknown. I set the pen down and listened for any movement outside. I walked room to room and checked every window. I pressed each latch, then tested each lock. The furnace clicked again. I paused and waited until the sound faded. I went back to the living room and checked the front door one more time. Everything was secured. I opened the camera feed on my phone again. The snow on the porch was untouched. No cars passed on the street. No shadows moved near the trees. I kept the curtains open just enough to see the reflection of the front yard lights on the snow. I returned to the kitchen and sat at the table. I wrote another line in the notebook. Her tone equals urgent. No explanation. I closed the notebook and placed it next to my phone. I leaned back, watching the hallway and the front door. I replayed her words in my mind, one sentence at a time. Don't go out this morning. It wasn't advice, it was instruction. Just trust me. She said it like someone who already knew what the consequence would be if I didn't. You'll understand by noon. That was a timeline, not a guess. I looked at the clock, 1:12 a.m. I knew sleep wouldn't return. My house felt different now, not unsafe, just alert. I checked the locks again, then the curtains, then the camera feed. I wasn't scared. I was preparing. I sat back at the table, opened my notebook again, and wrote one final line. Wait for next move. I stayed at the kitchen table until the sky outside shifted from black to a dull gray. At 6:10 a.m., I stood up, turned on the coffee maker, and watched the steam rise. The house was quiet, too quiet for Christmas morning. I carried the mug to my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into my old files. I wasn't looking for anything specific, but the warning from Marion had turned every instinct in me toward one place, Daniel's archive. I clicked on the hard drive labeled DH Private. It had been untouched since the week he died. The folders loaded slowly, like the machine had to drag them out of memory. I scrolled past engineering diagrams, tax documents, old work photos, and the folder he always kept locked with a password. It was named Winter Protocol. He had mentioned the name once, only once, and not to explain it, to warn me. If anyone ever asks about the storage site, he said, don't answer. At the time, it sounded like a tired man being overly cautious. Now it felt like the only thread that made sense. I typed his old password. It didn't open. I tried another. The third attempt triggered the folder to unlock, and a single PDF appeared. Nothing else. No extra files, no notes, just one document. I clicked it. The title page loaded. Winter Protocol, Engineer Logs, DH-01. Below that was a line written in Daniel's handwriting, scanned into the file. "If I am not here to explain this, follow the steps as outlined." My hand tightened on the mouse. I scrolled. The pages weren't long. Short statements, precise, more like warnings than instructions. Halfway down page 2, I saw a note he must have added in the final week before he died. It read, "If you receive any inquiry related to the Vermont Hills storage vault, do not speak. Do not respond. Notify Marion." I sat back. Notify Marion. The same woman who had knocked on my door at 1:00 a.m., shaking, telling me not to step outside. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordination. I printed the file and watched each page slide out of the machine. The sound of the printer filled the kitchen, sharp and steady. I laid the pages out in order and marked the line about Vermont Hills with a pen. Then I circled the phrase, storage vault. Daniel never used vague language. If he wrote vault, it existed. I reached for my notebook and wrote, 06:40 a.m. Found file, Winter Protocol. Link, Daniel, Marion. Item, Vermont Hills Vault. Status, active. I read the PDF again, slower this time. One phrase near the end stopped me. It said, "If they ever find the site, the evidence goes public. Prepare accordingly." Evidence, site, public. Daniel was an engineer, not a man who talked in riddles. If he wrote those words, it meant he had been carrying something dangerous long before he died, and he had left it in a place someone was now trying to reach. I looked at the printed pages spread across my table. Then I looked at the door, remembering Marion's pale face, the urgency in her voice. She wasn't warning me randomly. She was warning me because whatever Daniel left behind had finally reached someone else's hands. I picked up the file, clipped it together, and placed it in a folder. I opened the laptop again and saved a second copy to a flash drive. Then I unplugged the external hard drive and put it in the drawer under the desk. I stood still for a moment. Daniel didn't leave mistakes. He left instructions. And now I had one. The morning moved slowly, the kind of slow that makes every sound sharper. By 11:30 a.m., the house was silent, except for the steady tick of the kitchen clock. I stood at the counter, reviewing the printed pages of Daniel's file again, tracing each line with my finger, forcing myself to read them like instructions, not memories. My phone rang. Unknown number. I tapped accept and braced myself, keeping my voice steady. "This is Nora Hale." A controlled male voice came through. "Mrs. Hale, this is Officer Grant Taylor with the County Police Department. I need to confirm your whereabouts this morning." I lowered the file and reached for my notebook. "I'm at home." A pause, sharp and deliberate. "We have footage of your vehicle entering your former workplace at 8:05 a.m. Security logs show your identification being used inside the building." I tightened my grip on the counter. "My car hasn't moved. It's in my garage." My tone didn't shake. It hardened. He inhaled slowly, as if recalibrating. "The footage shows your plates. Your badge accessed the third-floor hallway. Reports confirm a critical incident took place shortly after." My stomach didn't drop. My pulse didn't spike. I walked to the garage door, opened it, and looked straight at my car. Parked, untouched, covered with a thin layer of morning frost. I lifted my phone, opened the camera feed, and checked the night timeline again. No movement, no departure, no remote start. "Officer Taylor?" I responded. "I can provide camera footage showing the car never left." Silence pressed through the line. Then his tone shifted, formal, cautious. "Can anyone verify you remained home?" "My house is empty." I kept my voice flat. "I live alone." Another beat of silence. "Mrs. Hale, at 11:12 a.m., an emergency alert was triggered at that building. Your absence from the location is being treated as a concern for both safety and questioning." Questioning. I wrote the word in my notebook. Then I asked, "What evidence was found?" He exhaled, as if debating how much to reveal. "Items associated with you were recovered near the scene." I felt something inside me click into place, not fear, but alignment. Someone had gone through with a plan, Someone who wanted my identity placed at a crime scene before anyone knew what happened at noon. I moved to the living room window and watched the empty street. "Officer, the car in your footage. Is the driver visible?" "The image is corrupted," he answered. "Only the vehicle entering, no clear face." Of course, my voice stayed controlled. "What do you need from me right now?" "Units are being dispatched to your address. Do not leave the premises. They need to confirm your safety." Safety. The word landed wrong. Marion's pale face flashed in my mind, her urgency, the file from Daniel, Vermont Hills, the order to tell no one. None of this pointed toward safety. My eyes remained on the street. "Understood." The call ended with a click that felt too final. I locked the phone and placed it on the table. Then I shut every curtain in the house, one by one. I checked the back door, the side lock, the windows I had already confirmed hours earlier. My breathing stayed even. This wasn't panic. This was preparation. I returned to the notebook and wrote, 11:30 a.m. Police involved. Footage fabricated. Identity duplicated. Car Eagle clean. Next move, unknown. I stared at the last line. Unknown didn't mean unprepared. Someone wanted me to step outside, walk into a narrative built for me. Marion's warning wasn't instinct. It was coordination. Daniel's file wasn't paranoia. It was evidence. And this call wasn't protection. It was a signal. I closed the notebook, placed both hands on the table, and steadied myself. If someone was trying to rewrite my morning, they underestimated the woman who would read every line twice. The house stayed still after the call ended, but the stillness felt staged, like someone had pressed pause on everything outside my windows. I checked the garage camera again. The car remained untouched. I checked the street camera. Empty. I checked the porch feed. Clear. At 11:47 a.m., another knock hit my door. Not frantic, not hesitant. A single, precise tap, like someone marking a checkpoint. I walked to the door but didn't open it. I looked through the peephole. No one stood there, only falling snow building against the top step. I unlocked the deadbolt halfway, cracked the door open, and looked down. A red envelope sat on the doormat. No footprints around it, no movement on either camera. I picked it up and closed the door quietly. The paper was cold, stiff from the weather. My name wasn't written on it, but a timestamp was printed in bold black ink. 11:45 a.m., exactly 2 minutes earlier. I opened it at the kitchen table. Inside was a printed photo. The image showed me and Marion at the grocery store yesterday. I remembered the moment. She had asked whether I needed anything for Christmas morning. It was a 15-second conversation at most, but in the photo, someone had captured us from behind a shelf, the angle low, the focus sharp on my face. On the back of the photo were 5 typed words. "They know your face now." I placed the photo flat on the table, aligned it with the edge, and examined the lighting. Fluorescent. Same aisle, same jackets, same cart. Someone had been close enough to listen. My phone buzzed. I answered. "Martin, I need 5 minutes." The line sharpened instantly. "What happened?" "A photo just arrived on my porch. Someone has been following me since yesterday." Silence. Not uncertainty, but calculation. I heard him adjust papers, as he always did when shifting into legal mode. "Describe the image." "Grocery store. Marion and I. Angle suggests surveillance, not coincidence. Message on the back. They know your face now." He breathed out once, slow and direct. "Then we handle this the right way. Start documenting everything from the moment Marion knocked." "I already did." "Good. Continue recording every detail. Timestamp each entry. Do not erase anything." His tone wasn't emotional. It was structured, like he was guiding a witness, not comforting a friend. I opened my notebook. "The officer's call confirms identity fabrication. The envelope confirms tracking. Which means," Martin continued, "someone is actively building a case against you before they attempt contact. Once that contact happens, the paperwork will already be drafted. They expect me to react. They expect fear," he corrected. "Don't give them that. Give them evidence." I looked at the red envelope again. "They're watching the house. Good. Let them watch you prepare. I paused. Martin, if someone is trying to force a narrative, we counter it with facts, he interjected. You don't run, you don't hide. Everything you do from this minute forward is by the book. The more you stay within the law, the less room they have to twist your actions. This was why Daniel trusted him. I stood, closed the envelope, and placed it inside a clear plastic sleeve. I'm preserving the envelope and the photo. No fingerprints removed. Correct. And listen carefully, Martin added, voice steady. You must not confront anyone. You must not leave the house until I have a full report. The moment you step outside, they control the storyline. Inside your home, you control the record. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. They chose the wrong morning to test my patience. No, he corrected gently. They chose the wrong woman to underestimate. I ended the call and placed the phone beside the notebook. Then I labeled the plastic sleeve with the time, date, and description. I stored it inside the drawer where I kept important documents. I went to the window again and looked at the street. Still no movement, still no cars, still no footprints near the porch. Someone wanted me to feel watched. Instead, they gave me proof. I turned off the kitchen light, sat at the table with my notes, and prepared for whatever noon was going to reveal. By 2:00 p.m., the house was quiet again. I kept reviewing the red envelope, the photo, and the notes from Daniel's file. Each item lined up like pieces from the same instruction manual. I was marking another entry in my notebook when 3 quick knocks tapped against my door. Measured, not frantic. I checked the camera first. Marion stood on my porch, holding a small USB drive in her gloved hand. I opened the door only after confirming the street was clear. You came back, I noted, watching her eyes. That wasn't part of your first warning. She stepped inside, closing the door fast. I didn't have a choice. They're escalating. Who? I kept my tone controlled. Give me specifics, Marion. You're done speaking in fragments. Her shoulders tightened. Your husband trusted me. He told me to bring you something if anything happened to him. Then give it to me. She handed me the USB. Everything Daniel discovered is inside. I held the drive between my fingers. Cold, metal, real. Why now? They were at my house, she explained, voice low but steady. A car parked across the street. 2 men. They watched the windows. I knew they'd come next, so I moved. I walked straight to my desk, plugged the USB into my laptop, and opened the folder. A list of files filled the screen. Timestamps, logs, location notes, and a video labeled DH Confidential 07. I clicked it. Daniel appeared on the screen, sitting at his workshop bench. His voice was calm, the same tone he used whenever he explained something serious but necessary. If Marion is delivering this, I'm gone. Marion looked away for a second, but I didn't. I leaned in. Daniel continued. The project was never canceled. They only changed how they hide it. If they contact Nora, do not let her speak to anyone until the vault is opened. My chest tightened, but not from grief, from clarity. I paused the video and turned to Marion. What vault? She pointed to the next file in the folder. The storage site at Vermont Hills. Daniel showed me the secondary access plan. He created a failsafe for you. A failsafe, I repeated, not as a question, but as confirmation. He built a legal trail, a technical trail, a witness trail. He prepared for pressure long before it arrived. Marion nodded. He knew they'd eventually target you. They already have. I picked up the red envelope and set it beside the laptop. They're tracking my face. They're cloning my identity. They're constructing a timeline before noon. Her eyes widened. Then we're out of time. No, I corrected firmly. We're ahead of them. That's why they're rushing. People rush when they lose control. Marion sat across from me, hands clasped tightly. I need to tell you everything now. I worked under Daniel for 3 years. He discovered irregularities in a government-funded immunity project, the Winter Project. He wasn't supposed to. He reported it. They silenced the report, then they silenced him. And you've been living with the aftermath ever since, I concluded. She looked down. I froze. I didn't come forward. I thought they'd let me go if I stayed quiet. They never let anyone go, I responded. You coming here today proves that better than anything else. She swallowed, then forced her voice steady. Nora, I want to make this right. Then follow my lead, I instructed. Not your fear. She straightened. Tell me what you need. First, I said, turning the laptop so she could see the file structure. We verify every document. Then we prepare copies. Then we plan how to reach the vault without giving them a narrative to twist. Marion breathed out slowly. You're not panicking. Panic doesn't solve anything. Facts do. I clicked on the next file. Daniel left us a path. We follow it. And if they show up before we leave? I looked her directly in the eyes. Then I make sure they understand one thing. I don't bend under pressure. I document it. Marion's shoulders relaxed for the first time since she arrived. Your husband always said you'd know what to do. He trusted logic, I replied, and he trusted me to finish what he started. I unplugged the USB, put it into a clean case, and added it to my notebook. Then I stood. Marion, we're going to Vermont Hills, but we're not walking into danger blindly. We're taking evidence with us. She nodded once. I'm with you. I locked the front door behind us and checked the windows one more time. Every step was deliberate, measured, documented. If someone wanted to write a story about me today, they would have to compete with the truth. I closed the laptop after reviewing the last file on Marion's USB. The evidence wasn't just sensitive, it was targeted, organized, and dangerous. Every timestamp matched the timeline Daniel had left behind. Nothing contradicted his warnings. Nothing felt accidental. Marion stood near the window, watching the street the way someone watches a door that might break open. You need to see the rest, she urged, nodding toward the drive. I've seen enough to confirm one thing, I answered, taking my notebook. Daniel wasn't working for them. He was exposing them. She turned from the window. Then you understand why they erased him. I looked her straight in the eyes. They didn't erase him. They underestimated who he trusted. I connected the USB again and opened the main folder. Rows of documents loaded. Internal memos, research logs, transport schedules, medical summaries. At the top was a master file. Winter Project, Primary Index. I opened it. The first page listed 3 categories: immunity trials, containment protocols, personnel eliminations. Marion watched the screen with her arms crossed. He found proof the project never stopped, not 10 years ago, not 5. They simply shifted the lab sites. And anyone who reported it, I concluded, was removed. Her breath tightened. Including him. I clicked the folder labeled Immunity Trials. It opened a set of charts recorded in Daniel's handwriting, notes highlighted in red-flagged patterns of unnatural immune response tied to unnamed subjects. These logs match the documents in his old briefcase, I noted. He was tracing the experiment backward, not forward. That means he was looking for the origin, not the outcome. Marion nodded. Because once he found it, they couldn't control the narrative. And now they're trying to control mine. I saved local copies of everything. They're trying to build a story before we open the vault. You really think they'll come today? I clicked on personnel eliminations and let the list load. Daniel's name was third. Next to it, cause of death, natural. Redacted signatures stamped the page. Not think, I responded. I'm counting on it. People who stage false identities don't wait. They move before the truth catches up. Marion lowered herself into the chair across from me. Nora, if we release this, they'll come after both of us. That's why we verify every line, every timestamp, every file, I countered. Truth only fails when it's sloppy. Daniel didn't leave anything sloppy. She exhaled slowly. You're handling this better than I expected. "This isn't fear," I replied. "It's responsibility." I tapped the stack of printed documents. He didn't ask for revenge. He asked for facts. I highlighted a final note on the index page. If they reach Vermont Hills first, the record dies. If Nora reaches first, it lives. I added the line to my notebook. "Marion, we finished this today." She looked toward the door, then back at me. "You still believe we can outrun them?" "We're not outrunning anyone," I answered calmly. "We're outthinking them. There's a difference." A notification blinked on the laptop, another background file syncing from the USB. Marion stiffened. "What is that?" I opened it. A small video loaded. Daniel again. His face was drawn, but his voice was steady. "If she's watching this file, she already knows what Winter Project is. Marion, if you're with her, protect her. Nora, don't negotiate. Don't trust unofficial channels. Don't step into any vehicle you didn't initiate. And do not speak to law enforcement without counsel. This project has federal shields. The only protection is exposure." Marion pressed a hand over her mouth. I leaned closer to the screen. He wasn't paranoid. He was precise. She whispered, "Nora, you realize what this means?" "Yes," I answered, closing the video. "It means we're done being passive." I pulled the USB from the port and locked it into a small metal case. "We leave for Vermont Hills in 10 minutes. Bring only what you can carry. Evidence first. Everything else stays." Marion stood, visibly steadier than she'd been all morning. "Tell me the plan." "The plan," I replied, putting on my coat, "is to open the vault before they open a narrative." I turned off the lights, checked the curtain edges, and verified the door locks one more time. "They wanted silence," I added, picking up the evidence case. "Today, they get accuracy." Marion and I gathered everything we needed: USB case, printed logs, my notebook. I checked the windows, the porch camera, and the street feed twice. No movement, no parked cars, no footprints. Too quiet to be natural, but quiet is information. Quiet means someone is waiting. Marion stood near the door with her gloves on. "Before we leave, Daniel wanted you to have something." She reached inside her coat and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. "Show me." She unfolded the cloth. A silver key lay inside, thin, heavy, engraved with DH 2021. I examined it under the kitchen light. "This isn't a house key." "It isn't," Marion confirmed. "It belongs to the Vermont Hills vault. Daniel told me the digital access might fail. He built a manual override. He knew they'd try to shut the system down." I rotated the key, checking the grooves. "He also knew I'd go there anyway." Marion lowered her voice. "The vault requires dual access. Daniel programmed a secondary authorization. For you." I slipped the key into my coat pocket. He planned for both outcomes: his survival or his disappearance. That's not paranoia. That's engineering. Marion's breath caught. "Nora, look outside." I checked the porch camera again. A dark SUV sat 2 houses down. Windows tinted. Engine off. It hadn't been there 10 minutes earlier. Marion stepped closer. "Is that them?" "Most likely." I zoomed the camera. No plates visible, no drivers exiting, no headlights. "They're waiting for movement. They want us to step out without evidence." Her fingers tightened. "So what do we do?" "We move anyway, but we move correctly." I shut the laptop and placed the evidence case inside a black messenger bag. We exit through the side yard. No direct line of sight from the street. Marion nodded, following my lead. Before leaving, I walked to Daniel's old workbench drawer and opened it. Inside was a small flashlight and a compact toolkit he always kept ready. I took both. "If the vault's power grid fails, we'll need these." "You think it will fail?" Marion asked. "It will if they know we're going there." We stepped into the laundry room, out the side door, and crossed the yard beneath the tree line. The snow muffled our steps. The SUV didn't move. I checked my phone. "Cameras are still online. They're watching the front door, not the side." We reached Marion's car, parked behind my garage. She unlocked it with a small click. "Get in." I paused before opening the door. "Turn off your phone." She powered it down. I did the same. "Battery removed," I added, sliding it into my coat. "No tracking." She started the engine. "Do we take the main road?" "No." I pointed to the opposite direction. "We cut through the back route. Less traffic, fewer cameras." Marion began driving, hands steady on the wheel. After a few minutes, she spoke again. "Nora, that key. He trusted you with something powerful." "He trusted me with responsibility," I corrected. "There's a difference. And the vault? If they reach it first, they won't." I looked out the window at the endless stretch of trees. People who rely on secrecy forget the power of preparation. Daniel didn't. Snow thickened across the windshield. Marion slowed slightly. I checked the rear mirror. No cars behind us. Good. Marion kept her focus ahead. What happens once we're inside the vault? We retrieve the core data. We confirm it physically. We duplicate it. Then we take the evidence where it can't be buried again. To Martin? To the public, I clarified. But only after Martin sets the legal chain in place. They can't silence a process that's already documented. Marion exhaled shakily. "You sound certain." I turned to her. "I'm not reacting to fear. I'm responding to facts." She nodded once, as if collecting strength from the tone. Ahead, the turnoff to the Vermont Hills access road appeared. A faded sign leaned against the tree line. "There," I instructed. "Take it slow. They may have surveillance near the ridge." Marion made the turn and drove along the icy path. The road narrowed, twisting toward the base of the hill. "We're close," she murmured. I reached into my coat and touched the silver key, cold, precise, the last physical link Daniel had left behind. "When we open that vault," I stated, "we don't just recover data, we recover the truth they tried to bury with him." Marion tightened her grip on the wheel. "Then let's finish what he started." The trees opened, revealing the snow-covered access platform ahead. "We're here," I noted, steady and ready. Marion kept both hands on the wheel as we left the last row of houses behind. The neighborhood faded into stretches of frozen fields. I watched the rear mirror, tracking every shadow on the road. Nothing followed yet, but silence on a day like this was never neutral. "We stay off main roads," I instructed. "Any direct route is monitored." Marion nodded. "Then we take County Line and cut through the service trail." "Good. Keep under the speed limit. Sudden movements draw attention." She adjusted her posture, focus tightening. "Nora, once we reach the ridge, there's no turning back." There was no turning back the moment they used my name in that footage. I rested my hand on the evidence case. We drive clean. We drive smart. They don't get a single mistake from us. The heater hummed, fighting the cold air leaking in around the doors. Marion checked the mirror. SUV behind us, 2 curves back. I looked quickly. Headlights low, steady, not speeding, not passing. Not maintain speed. Don't glance again. People surveilling don't rush, they wait. She kept driving. My breathing stayed even. Distance? Maybe 300 feet, she estimated. Same lane. Then they're assessing, not approaching. I tapped my notebook. They want to see if we lead them somewhere. Marion tightened her jaw. We're not leading them to the vault. No, I responded. We're losing them before we get halfway there. The road narrowed between 2 slopes. Snow drifted onto the asphalt. I checked the GPS map I'd downloaded earlier, offline only. In 1 mile, a forest access road turns left. It's unmarked and iced over. Most drivers avoid it. Most, Marion repeated, gripping the wheel. We're not most. She pressed forward. The SUV behind us adjusted slightly, keeping the same calm distance, watching, recording, predicting. Turn off your headlights for 2 seconds, I instructed. Marion glanced at me. You sure? Yes, they're measuring our rhythm. Break it. She flicked them off, 1, 2, and back on. The SUV didn't respond. That confirmed it. They're not following our driving, I concluded. They're following our route. That means they're tracking your car's last known location. Marian's breath hitched. Through my phone? No, through theirs. I pointed ahead. Turn left at the unmarked road. Now. She jerked the wheel smoothly onto the narrow path. Snow cracked under the tires. We slid sideways an inch, then found traction. The SUV overshot the turn. Marian gasped softly. They missed it. They'll circle back, I noted, but we'll be gone. The forest access road curved uphill, flanked by dense pines. Marian focused on keeping the car aligned between the banks of snow. A branch scraped the side mirror. The road narrowed again. You ever driven on ice? I asked. Not like this. Then listen carefully. Don't fight the slide. Let the tires correct themselves. Gentle steering. Slow breaths. Keep the wheel steady. She followed every instruction. The car skimmed the slick incline, shuddering lightly. Doing good, I confirmed, watching her movements. Keep it consistent. After another minute, the road split. One side continued up the ridge, the other dipped behind a cluster of trees and merged into a maintenance trail Daniel once mentioned in his notes. Take the right trail, I directed. That leads nowhere on the map. Exactly. She turned the wheel. Snow sprayed from the tires as we descended the hidden path. The trees thickened overhead, blocking any aerial view. I checked the rear mirror again. No headlights, only darkness behind us. Marian let out a slow breath. We lost them. For now, I corrected. Surveillance doesn't give up. It adapts. She nodded. What's next? We reached the vault from the south side. It's the only angle without ground sensors. Daniel designed that entrance himself before they took over the project. Marian tightened her grip on the wheel. Then we trust his work. We trust his logic, I answered. Logic keeps us alive. The trail straightened ahead. Wind pushed through the branches, scattering snow across the hood. The terrain leveled, then began rising again. We're close, Marian murmured. I looked at the outline of the Vermont Hills Ridge forming ahead. Sharp, cold, waiting. Stay focused, I instructed quietly. Once we hit the final turn, everything changes. And after that? We open the vault before they open a case. Marian's eyes hardened with resolve. Then let's finish the drive. I kept my hand on the evidence case, bracing for the next move. We reached the back road leading to Daniel's old storage facility, a weathered warehouse he once used when he didn't want company around his projects. The building sat low against the ridge, metal siding faded by years of winter storms. Marian parked behind the structure, hidden from the main road. I opened the door first, scanning the tree line. No tire tracks except ours. Good. They haven't found this place yet. Marian stepped out, gripping her coat tighter. Are you sure this is safe? It's not safe, I corrected. It's controlled. Safety doesn't exist today. Only preparation does. I unlocked the side door with an old key Daniel kept hidden behind a loose panel. The warehouse lights flickered as we stepped inside. Dust lay across the floor like a thin sheet of evidence no one had disturbed. Marian stared around the empty space. Feels like he never left. It feels like he planned every inch, I replied, flipping the main breaker. A row of overhead lights hummed to life. At the far end sat his projector and the old metal table he used for field testing. Nothing had moved, no signs of forced entry. Good. If they had found this place, the lights would have been rewired. She frowned. How can you tell? Because Daniel always taped the breaker switches in a set order, I explained, pointing to the colored strips. This sequence is untouched. Anyone trying to alter it would never know the pattern. Marian's eyes softened. You remember everything he taught you. I had to, I responded. People who loved Daniel didn't get second chances to correct mistakes. I crossed the warehouse and powered up the projector. A blue glow filled the room. Marian watched as the screen blinked, then played a video thumbnail labeled DH Last Note. Play it, she urged. I did. Daniel appeared, recorded months before his death, wearing the jacket he always used on site. His voice carried the steady tone he saved for moments of consequence. If you're here, It means the project resurfaced, and it means you don't have time to hesitate. Marion stepped closer. He knew exactly how this would unfold. Daniel wasn't guessing, I answered. He was calculating. He continued, Nora, if you found the Winter files, you must secure the core evidence. If they reach you first, don't negotiate. Don't run. Release everything. Exposure is your only protection. The video ended. Marion turned toward me. He was talking to you directly. He knew you'd follow the logic. I'm not doing this out of emotion. I'm doing it because the truth doesn't defend itself. I opened my notebook and wrote, 2:53 p.m., Safe House active, video confirmed, instructions validated. Marion watched me document every detail. You always track everything. That's how we control the narrative, I replied. Facts show discipline. Panic shows guilt. We don't give them guilt. She swallowed hard. So what's next? We create redundancy. I walked to the metal table and spread out the files, the USB contents, the printouts, the red envelope, the photo. One set stays with me, one goes to Martin, one uploads automatically if I don't stop the timer. Marion's eyes widened. You're setting a dead man switch. Not dead, I corrected. Responsible. I opened my laptop and began syncing the documents into a secure offline folder. If they intercept us, the evidence survives without me. That's bold. Bold is what people call preparation after it works. I looked up at her. Daniel didn't die for me to act timid. Marion took a steady breath. How do we move next? We enter the vault, extract the core data, and trigger the release only when Martin signals legal clearance. I pointed at the timer on the screen. If they cut power or seize devices, the upload triggers automatically. And if they reach us before we get to the vault? Then they encounter a woman who documented every step and stored every fact, I answered. They win nothing through intimidation. Marion's posture straightened. Then we go now. Not yet. I unplugged the projector, packed the files, and double-checked every door. We leave only when the trail behind us is clean. She picked up her coat. Tell me what to do. Follow the plan. No improvising, no fear-based decisions. I shut off the lights. We're not surviving their narrative. We're rewriting it. Marion nodded. Understood. We stepped out into the cold air. The wind cut across the ridge, but the quiet remained. Next stop, I confirmed, locking the door behind us. The vault. Marion gripped the wheel as we got into the car. Then let's end what they started. We will, I assured her, fastening my seatbelt. On our terms, with evidence they can't bury. The drive up the final incline grew steeper, the road narrowing to a thin strip carved along the ridge. Marion slowed the car as the Vermont Hills access platform came into view, an old industrial loading area built into the hillside, half covered by snow and barely visible from the main road. I checked the rear mirror. No vehicles behind us. They'll reach the trail eventually, but not fast enough. Marion parked beside a row of rusted storage crates. Is the vault entrance inside the hillside? Hidden under the maintenance bay, I confirmed, stepping out and scanning the perimeter. Daniel never trusted visible access points. We walked toward the platform. Snow crunched beneath our boots, the sound sharp in the still air. I reached the metal door at the end of the bay and brushed off the frost covering the keypad. Under the grime was a small slot shaped exactly like the silver key's profile. Marion hovered behind me. Does it still work after all these years? Daniel didn't build things to fail. I slid the silver key into the slot. A mechanical click responded. Clean, deliberate, functional. The overhead lights flickered on in a descending row, illuminating a stairwell tucked behind the door. I checked each corner before entering. Stay close. If anything looks manipulated, we step back. We walked down the stairs, the air cooling with each step. At the bottom sat a reinforced steel door with a biometric panel. A small screen displayed a prompt. Primary access. DH required. Secondary access. Verified partner. Marion's breath caught. He programmed you as the secondary. He trusted logic, not luck. I removed one glove and placed my hand on the scanner. A soft tone emitted. Secondary access accepted. Then the screen flashed. Secondary access insufficient, without authorization, override. Marion flinched. What now? I took the silver key again and located a secondary lock beneath the panel. Daniel always left a manual path. Look for a matching groove. She ran her fingers along the lower seam. Here. A small indentation sat hidden behind a sliding shield. I aligned the key and turned it slowly. The lock engaged. The biometric panel rebooted. The steel bolts shifted. A final message appeared. Fail-safe protocol triggered. Door opening. The vault door slid aside. Inside was a narrow hallway lit by recessed LEDs, leading to a room encased in thick concrete. No decorations, no markings, only purpose. Marion stepped forward cautiously. He built this to survive anything. He built it to outlive anyone trying to erase him, I corrected. At the end of the hallway lay a circular chamber with metal racks lining the walls. Each rack held sealed cases, labeled with codes matching the files we'd seen on the USB. But the center of the room held the important item: a reinforced storage pedestal with a biometric pad, a manual key slot, and a digital terminal. I approached the pedestal. This is the core. Marion glanced between the cases. Is everything we need here? We verify. I inspected the rack numbers. USB logs match, printouts match. Daniel's note confirmed physical storage here. Nothing looks disturbed. She exhaled shakily. Then the most dangerous evidence in this entire project survived because he trusted you. He trusted preparation, I corrected, placing the evidence case on the pedestal. Now we prove he was right. I connected the USB drive and uploaded Daniel's file list to the terminal. Each item appeared with a green status indicator. Archive intact. Marion looked at the vault entrance. What if they're close? Then they'll reach a locked door and an empty hallway, I responded. Because once we start extraction, we don't stay here long. I lifted the lid on the central storage case. Inside were the original project logs, physical proofs that no digital wipe could destroy. Daniel's handwriting appeared on the first page. Marion covered her mouth. It's real. All of it. Truth usually is, I answered. The problem is who controls the access. She nodded slowly. So what now? We scan, we duplicate, and we transmit to Martin's secure channel. I powered the handheld scanner. Everything gets documented. Nothing leaves this vault undocumented. And once the upload starts? Once it starts, I replied, locking the case back into position. The truth leaves with us, even if we don't. Marion steadied herself. Then let's begin. I initiated the extraction sequence. The progress bar lit the room with a soft blue glow. We're in, I noted, and they're officially out of time. The extraction bar reached full connection status. The terminal unlocked with a soft mechanical click, granting access deeper into the vault. I pushed the inner door open and stepped into the evidence room. Rows of metal shelves formed a circular layout around the center platform. Everything here was organized with Daniel's handwriting. Clean, numbered, deliberate. Nothing chaotic. Nothing misplaced. This wasn't a hiding place. It was a record he built so the truth couldn't scatter when he was gone. Marion hovered at the doorway. It feels like walking into his mind. This is his logic on paper, I replied, scanning the shelf labels, and logic doesn't lie. I moved to the central pedestal. A sealed containment box rested under a glass cover. The label burned straight through the sterile lighting. Core Docs. Winter Project. Do not alter. Marion stepped closer, her voice low. Is that the original evidence they targeted? More than that, I corrected. This is the part they couldn't replicate or destroy. I lifted the glass cover. The containment box unlocked with a biometric scan tied to Daniel's access profile and the silver key override. Once the latches disengaged, I opened the lid. Inside was a stack of folders, each marked with Daniel's initials. On top lay a handwritten letter addressed to me. Marion covered her mouth. He left something for you. Then we read it, I stated, opening the envelope. Daniel's handwriting was steady as always. Nora, if you're seeing this, then what I feared has happened. I wasn't able to stop them. That task is yours now. They will try to bury you the way they buried me. Don't let them. Finish what I started." Marion watched my expression carefully. He knew they'd come after you next. He knew they'd try to erase the evidence by erasing the person holding it. I folded the letter with steady hands. But he also knew I don't scare easily. I lifted the next folder. Inside were original research logs, timestamps, signatures, and sequence charts. Every page matched the digital versions on the USB. "Physical verification complete," I noted aloud, "which means our upload becomes irrefutable the moment we transmit." Marion stepped forward. "Should we start scanning?" "Yes, every page, no page left behind." I placed the documents on the scanner built into the terminal. This room is the only place where the truth still exists in its original form. If we leave without duplicating everything, we hand them another chance to rewrite the story. The scanner hummed softly. Papers fed through with crisp, mechanical precision. Each completed scan appeared on the terminal with a digital signature. "Files 1 through 14 verified," I confirmed. "Move the next set." Marion passed me another bundle. Every binder, every chart. Daniel recorded everything. "He recorded enough that a court won't need imagination to understand," I answered, adjusting the scanner. "Facts speak louder than fear, and he built a system full of facts." Halfway through the next stack, Marion froze. "Nora, look at this." She held out a sealed evidence pouch. Inside was a drive labeled Personnel Protection, Secondary Access, NH Only. "He left you your own channel," she whispered, "a private one." "He trusted redundancy," I replied. "He knew one breach could collapse everything unless there were layers." I connected the drive to the secondary terminal. A new archive opened. Video files, statements, lab findings Daniel recorded off-grid. One video caught my attention. Its timestamp matched the week before his death. I opened it. Daniel sat in his basement workshop. His face was exhausted, but his eyes were clear. "Nora, if this reaches you, they've already made their move. They'll try to silence you by confusion first, accusation second, arrest third. Don't negotiate. Don't trust their questions. They're not gathering truth. They're controlling outcome." Marion inhaled sharply. "He predicted everything." "No," I corrected, leaning closer to the screen. "He understood their pattern." The video continued. "You're not alone. Marion knows enough to guide you. Martin knows enough to shield you. Trust the two of them. And when the time comes, make the truth public. That's the only protection anyone has left." The video ended. Marion stood still, processing his words. "He never doubted you." "I don't need doubt," I replied. "I need accuracy, and he gave me that." I returned to the scanner. We finished documenting, then we trigger transmission. Marion gathered the remaining files. "Uploading all this, won't they detect the signal?" "They will," I answered, "but by the time they recognize what's happening, the data will already be out of their reach." The final set entered the scanner. The progress window blinked green across the terminal. "Everything's ready," Marion noted quietly. "So what's next?" "We upload," I answered, entering the global release command Martin designated. "Once this begins, we don't stop. Not for alarms. Not for them." The system queued the files. A new screen flashed. Transmission sequence prepared. Confirm execution. Marion looked at me, waiting. I placed my hand on the biometric pad. "We didn't break into this vault. We opened what they tried to bury." The confirmation light turned blue. "It's time." The moment I confirmed the execution command, the vault lights shifted from white to a colder blue. The terminal unlocked its transmission window and began processing the first sequence of files. Every document Daniel protected for years now moved into the legal chain Martin had prepared. Marion stepped closer. "How fast until he receives the full archive?" "Fast enough," I answered, checking the authentication logs as they populated. Each file gets validated before it leaves this vault. Once it enters Martin's custody chain, no one can alter or dispute it. The air vents in the ceiling clicked open, stabilizing the system. Marion watched the screen with tight focus. And when they detect the signal? They will, I confirmed. Detection is inevitable. Stopping it isn't. A piercing alert echoed through the vault. Marion jumped slightly. That's their detection, isn't it? Yes. They found the transmission. A red indicator above the vault door illuminated, first steady, then pulsing. Marion stared at it with dread. They're coming. They're late, I replied. The truth already left this room. The terminal displayed the legal routing for Martin's office. Every line of text matched Daniel's format. Every timestamp matched today's date. Nothing out of order, nothing missing. Another sound erupted from the far side of the vault, a deeper alarm. Marion spun toward it. What now? Perimeter breach. I scanned the terminal again. They reached the hillside entrance. Her breathing hitched. How quickly can they get through? That depends on how much force they brought. I started securing the evidence case. Either way, the transmission still finishes. The overhead lights flickered once, just once, but stabilized again. Marion's voice tightened. Power interference? External, I confirmed. They're trying to overload the system. A message flashed across the terminal. Unauthorized network probe. Blocked. Marion exhaled sharply. They're trying to intercept the upload. They're trying to understand it, I corrected. Interception isn't possible from outside this vault. A sudden low thud vibrated through the steel door. Marion flinched. They're inside the stairwell. Let them walk, I answered calmly. Walking doesn't undo evidence. The terminal continued verifying and dispatching packets of information through the legal channel. Even without a visible progress bar, I recognized the pace. Structured, relentless, thorough. Daniel's work moved with the same precision he lived by. A louder impact hit the outer door, metal against metal, controlled and tactical. Marion's voice dropped to a whisper. They brought a full response team. Of course they did, I replied. They always bring numbers when truth isn't on their side. Another alert appeared. Transmission confirmed. Legal receipt verified. Public redundancy armed. Marion grabbed the pedestal. Public redundancy? You didn't tell me it was automatic. It triggers if they cut the power, I explained. Daniel didn't build one exit, he built several. A third hit slammed the vault door, this time hard enough to shake the floor. Marion stiffened. They're about to breach. They can breach steel, I replied. They can't breach what already left this vault. The terminal dimmed for a moment, then displayed a final confirmation line. Archive release, complete chain of custody, M. Cole. Active global mirrors, secured. I locked the console. We're finished. Marion pressed a hand to her chest, relief flooding her posture. They can't bury it now. No, I answered. They can only witness what they failed to stop. The outer chamber lights shifted to red, protocol for an imminent forced entry. Boots thundered down the concrete stairs. Voices barked commands. Flashlights swept across metal. Marion stepped back. They're seconds away from breaking through. I sealed the evidence case. Then let them. She looked at me, stunned. You're not running? Running won't protect the truth, I replied. Releasing it already did. Another violent crash hit the vault door. The locking bolts shuddered. Marion raised her voice over the noise. What do we do now? We walk out when they enter, I answered. Not as fugitives, as the only people in this facility who followed the law. A final impact reverberated through the chamber. Long, deep, decisive. I faced the door without an ounce of panic. They wanted silence, I told Marion. Instead, they received documentation. The steel frame strained under another hit. It's time. The vault door finally gave under the fourth strike. The steel frame groaned, then burst inward as a tactical team surged through the opening. Flashlights snapped toward us immediately. Controlled, synchronized, practiced. I raised both hands to chest level, not in surrender, but in clarity. Easy. No one here is resisting. Marion stood close behind me, her hands lifted as well. She trembled, but she didn't step back. Officer Grant Taylor moved through the line of agents, his jaw set tight. Nora Hale, step forward. His tone carried official protocol, but the tension behind it told me he had already seen the broadcast. He knew the truth was out. I stepped forward with steady posture. Before you speak, confirm something. Did your department receive a data release flagged under Martin Cole's legal chain? Grant paused, not long, but long enough to confirm he had. That isn't relevant right now, he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. It's entirely relevant, I countered. That information verifies every file you chased me for, and you received it before stepping through that door. The flashlight beams wavered slightly as the tactical officers exchanged glances. Grant maintained his position. Mrs. Hale, you're being detained under federal directive. You'll be escorted for immediate questioning. No, I corrected calmly. I'll be escorted under legal protection. There's a difference. A second set of footsteps echoed from behind the tactical line. Martin Cole entered the vault corridor, coat still dusted from snow, an official document folder in his hand. Grant stiffened. You should not be here. I should be anywhere the law is being ignored, Martin responded, holding up a stamped order. This is a protection directive under witness security, effective immediately. Grant took the document and scanned the first page. His expression cracked. Martin continued. Your department already acknowledged receipt of the released files. That means this arrest attempt is outside legal scope, unless you intend to detain a protected witness on the same day her evidence was verified. Marion let out a shaky exhale. I kept my focus on Grant. You knew the moment you stepped inside that the truth was already in the public record. Grant lowered the document and spoke quietly. You created a situation far bigger than you realize. No, I responded. The situation was already bigger. I exposed it. That's not a crime. And the tactical team began lowering their weapons, not dramatically but naturally, the way trained professionals react when they know the objective has shifted. Grant returned the protection order to Martin with a tight movement. Procedures still require detainment until we confirm the chain of custody. Then follow procedure, I replied, not pressure. He met my eyes with a conflicted stare. Mrs. Hale, turn around. I complied, placing my hands behind my back. His cuffs clicked around my wrists, firm but not hostile. Marion choked on a breath. Nora. I turned my head slightly. Stay with Martin. Follow the plan. Nothing changes. Grant guided me toward the door. You'll be transported to county intake for processing. That's fine, I responded. Every camera you bring will show the same thing, compliance and documentation. We stepped into the hallway. Tactical officers parted for us. None looked hostile anymore. They looked informed. As we passed the threshold, one officer near the stairwell spoke under his breath. Not to me, but to Grant. Sir, the leak is global. Every major network has it. Grant halted for a moment, just long enough to accept that everything had slipped beyond the control of the people who sent them. He refocused and continued leading me toward daylight. Mrs. Hale, whether you realize it or not, this changes everything. It changes what needed to change, I answered quietly. That's the point. Outside, the snow reflected the emergency lights. Cameras rolled. Reporters were already gathering behind the barricades. Someone in the crowd shouted my name. Grant tightened his grip. Do you want to make a statement? Not yet, I replied. Let the truth speak first. He nodded once, more acknowledgement than protocol, and guided me toward the vehicle. Justice wasn't loud. It was documented. 1 year later, Christmas morning arrived quietly. Snow covered the yard in an even sheet, untouched, clean. I moved through my kitchen with the same routine Daniel and I once shared. Boil water, prepare tea, open the blinds to the morning light. I didn't rush. I didn't hide. I didn't measure each step like I had 12 months ago. The world had shifted. I hadn't. The radio on the counter played low. A morning host spoke in a calm tone. The federal inquiry into the Winter Project enters its final phase today. Investigators confirm that whistleblower Nora Hale provided the core evidence that initiated the case. I poured hot water over the tea leaves and placed the kettle aside. The facts were enough. Public credit was unnecessary. A knock tapped lightly against my back door. Not frantic, not warning, familiar. Marian stepped inside before I called her in. "Your porch steps froze again," she noted, brushing snow from her coat. "Careful when you walk later." "I'll pour salt after breakfast," I answered. "Sit. Tea's ready." She removed her gloves, placing them on the table. Hard to believe it's been a year. "It feels longer," I admitted, setting 2 cups down. "But the right kind of longer." She eased into the chair across from me. Her posture was stronger now, her voice steadier. I watched the morning report. They finally named the officials who approved the project. "They named them because the evidence forced them to," I replied. "Accountability doesn't happen out of kindness. It happens when the facts leave no room to hide." Marian nodded. "You kept every record. You followed every step. You never backed down." "I followed Daniel's instructions," I corrected gently, "and I followed the law. That combination is the only reason we're here drinking tea instead of fighting another cover-up." She wrapped her hands around her cup. "Do you regret any of it?" "No." I leaned back slightly. "Justice doesn't require regret, only honesty." The radio continued in the background. "Officials state that reforms will focus on preventing sealed programs from bypassing oversight. Public advocates credit Nora Hale's evidence with exposing those failures." Marian smiled faintly. "You hear that? They're thanking you on national radio." "I hear accuracy," I replied. "Not praise." She laughed quietly. "You haven't changed." "No," I agreed, "and I don't intend to." We shared a moment of silence, calm, earned, real. Then Marian straightened. "Have you spoken to Martin this week?" "He called yesterday," I answered. "He said the final report is nearly ready. Once it's released, the case won't belong to any agency. It will belong to the public record forever." Marian let out a breath that carried a year's worth of tension. "You did it, Nora." "We did it," I corrected. "Daniel started it. You carried the risk. Martin secured the legal path. I acted when the moment arrived. Justice isn't one person. It's a chain. Break one link and nothing holds." Outside, a plow passed slowly down the street. The metal scraped across the pavement, clearing the road for holiday traffic. Marian watched it through the window. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hesitated that morning, when I knocked?" "No," I answered, "because hesitation was never an option, not with what Daniel left behind." She nodded, absorbing the words. "He trusted the right person." "He trusted preparation," I replied, "and preparation won." I pushed a small plate toward her. "Eat, it's Christmas." She broke into a real smile. "You kept the old recipe." "Tradition survives when truth does," I stated plainly. As we ate, the radio host delivered the closing line of the segment. "Public thanks continue for Nora Hale, whose determination ensured accountability where secrecy once stood." Marian set her fork down. "How does it feel hearing your name like that?" "It feels correct," I answered. "Not flattering, correct." She leaned back in her chair, content. "So what now?" "We live," I replied, "without hiding, without fear, and without waiting for permission." The morning light grew stronger through the window, bright, but not harsh, the kind of light that reveals everything exactly as it is. I lifted my cup. "We didn't break the law, Marian. We reminded it why it exists." She lifted hers as well. "To the truth." "To the truth," I echoed. And for the first time in a year, the day felt exactly as it should. Quiet, steady, and honest. The kind of ending that comes when justice stands without apology. What happened that Christmas didn't make me a hero? It made me responsible for the truth my husband left behind, and responsible for the people who didn't have a voice when the Winter Project tried to bury them. Justice didn't arrive quickly. It didn't arrive loudly. But it arrived because good people stood firm when it mattered. Daniel, Marion, Martin, and everyone who believed documents speak louder than fear. If this story reminded you that one honest action can change an entire system, then thank you for spending this time with me. Your presence here matters more than you realize. It means stories like mine still have a place in this world. Before you go, take a moment to subscribe to Grandma Life Stories. It helps these true-to-life stories reach more people who believe in accountability, truth, and the quiet strength that comes with age. And if you'd like to, you can leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from. I always enjoy knowing how far these stories travel and who's listening on the other side. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for believing that justice, real justice, is still worth fighting for. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and stay safe.